now 9:10 in the evening. Sunset was probably somewhere around 7:05, so we're a couple of hours into it. I've been waiting for some more progression on the part of the skies. What I'm going to look at tonight are adventitious studies beginning around 7200. I don't see it on here because I've been readjusting the position on the screen and synchronize, but I do believe this is NGC 7206. I played with the histogram. We've got 10-second exposures. I may play with 30-second exposures later on if we find something of interest. But as far as I'm concerned, let's go explore the night sky. And let's keep paying attention to where things turn up in the field of view, because I did synchronize not this time to a star, which I find a little chancy at times, but to an actually NGC galaxy, in this case 7206. Okay, as I zoom in a little bit, NGC 7206 in the middle of the field, previously at some 70x magnification, now perhaps a little higher, maybe 90, is a galaxy in Pegasus, lenticular type, pretty much face on. It's got a brightish core, not star-like, but the luminosity kind of bleeds into then a largish halo. It's 1.3 by 1.3 arc-minute lenticular, 422 million light years distant, which puts it at about 170,000 light years in diameter. Pushing up to 150x, it's at right ascension 22 hours, 5 minutes, 40 seconds, and a declination of plus 16 degrees, 47, 5 seconds. I did take some time to sharpen the stars using ASI image earlier. That's our view at some 300x. Doesn't quite work, does it? Let's go back to 150. All right, indexing by 1. We're seeing 2 galaxies in the field, but I believe this to be the one we want to pay attention to. This is NGC 7207, another galaxy in Pegasus, a little further north, I believe. Its magnitude 15.8, a lenticular spiral 392 million light years distant, has an aspect of 3 to 1, 0.6 to 0.2 arc minutes. We're at right ascension 22 hours, 5 minutes, 45 seconds, with a declination of plus 16 degrees, 46 minutes, and 30 seconds. Let's run up our magnifications a bit. I'm sure if we went to adventuresindeepspace.com, the magnitude would probably be something more like 15.0, and it would say that there is a relationship at least between these 2 galaxies here and possibly this third. And I'm going to push it now up to 300 and drop it back down again to where it gives our best view, which is typically at 150x. No playing with the histogram at this point. I think things are looking pretty good. All the stars are a little bit distorted. Maybe I've moved around a bit too much. Okay, my hypothesis about centering on a deep sky study instead of a star seems to be paying off. What we're seeing here is NGC 7215, a galaxy in Aquarius, magnitude 13.9, 1.1 by 0.4 arc minutes, lenticular spiral, 182 million light years distant, maybe 60,000 light years in diameter, if we can believe the data. Right ascension 22 hours, 8 minutes, 34 seconds, with a declination almost spot on celestial equator at 0 degrees, 30 minutes, 41 seconds. I'm not so sure about the stars. I think since I removed the dew cap, that I'm going to have to refocus. But here we have our nice edgy-on presentation. The aspect ratio, however, being about 2.5 to 1, not the 4 that I usually like to see. Here we have a 150x view of an old favorite, NGC 7217, Galaxy in Pegasus, magnitude 10.14 by 3.4 arc minutes. Spiral with a lowercase b, meaning it has multiple spiral arms, but it's twice removed from lenticular. 47 million light years distant gives it a size of about 40,000 light years in diameter. Set right ascension 220752 with a declination of plus 31 degrees, 21 minutes, and 32 seconds. And as I have learned, the best way to confirm that you have actually found a study is to compare the celestial latitude and longitude down to at least the arc minute with published information online, typically going to Steve Gottlieb's site, who has done such a fine job of documenting the many, many, many NGC and other galaxies and studies that he has seen through a variety of scopes, beginning with actually probably what was a ST-80 finder scope that he mounted on larger scopes in the past. Okay, we've taken a little trip a little bit deeper to the south to NGC 7218, a galaxy in Aquarius. Magnitude 12, 2.6 by 1.1 arc minute. Oblately presented spiral with a capital B or a bar, also meaning it typically tends to only have two spiral arms, and a lowercase c thrice removed from lenticular, which means the difference between its published visual brightness and its blue-violet will be about 0.6 magnitudes. The galaxy is 73 million light years distant. Given its size, I'd say it's probably about, apparent size is probably about 70,000 light years in diameter. We're at right ascension 22 hours 10 11 seconds with a declination of minus 16 39 38. Okay, I selected this next adventitious galaxy because it is well overhead, probably about 8 degrees, 10 degrees from culminating. The galaxy is located in Lacerda the Lizard. It's 12.2 magnitudes, 1.7 by 1.2. Now, I will tell you that typically galaxies listed as less than magnitude 14 tend to be the visual brightness, and anything higher than that is probably the blue-violet. Let's go ahead and zoom in on this one a bit, get a little closer look. And as you can see, it does really matter that you do some zooming. And as I've mentioned in captions and probably narrative before, largely it's because we're exposing more of the pixels. The ZWO system is capable of resolving down to 0.5 arc seconds, although the scope will only go to 0.8, which is 4 times that of the Rev 2 system. So you had to pretty much stay with low magnifications. Anything beyond 75x, and I did have to use a focal reducer, 0.5, you tend to diminish out, spread out the light. But on the ZWO system, by going up to 100%, which I rarely do because it gets kind of ugly with the stars, you actually increase the amount of luminosity available to you to see on the screen. So we'll go back to 50%, 150x, 1 millimeter exit pupil for the 150 millimeter f8 eddy, and have a nice view of a 12.2 magnitude galaxy with all kinds of subtle sense of swirliness about it. NGC 7223. Okay, I've selected NGC 7225 largely because it's a fairly bright galaxy and it's also pretty far south. It's magnitude 12.2, 2.1 arc minutes, but the key to my selecting it is because it's got a ring, and I wanted to see if we could see the annulus around the spiral and arms of a galaxy that was at pretty far south. This is 7225, a galaxy in Pisces Australis, magnitude 12.2, 2 by 1 arc minutes, a spiral of the A class with a ring, 216 million light years distant, puts it about 120,000 light years in diameter. We're at right ascension 22 hours 13 minutes 07 seconds, and a deeper south declination of minus 26 degrees 8 minutes 52 seconds. And no, I am not going to play with the histogram. Clearly, we're losing quite a bit of luminosity when we go this far south. Okay, once again, we've headed north into Lacerda for a galaxy NGC 7227, palindrome number. Magnitude 13.5, 2 to 1 aspect ratio, 1.3 to 0.6, lenticular spiral, 298 million light years distant, so probably about 80,000 light years in diameter. Has a right ascension of 221131 and a declination of plus 38 degrees, 43 minutes and 16 seconds. Now, we're not getting much of a view of this galaxy at 65 or 70x, but here we have it here. We have a luminous core with an aura around it, and that makes perfectly good sense for a face-on lenticular. There seems to be an even brighter core galaxy above it and to the right. One of these days, I am going to have to really nail down the directions on the screen, east, west, north, and south, but in this case, we're at about the 1230 position, and it's got a brighter core, but it doesn't have as intense an aura, slightly fainter core with a fainter, more present aura. Most of this galaxy condenses light into its core region, and this one is spreading it out just a wee bit more. Well, you can probably tell what part of the sky this galaxy here, this beautiful little edge on. We're in Lacerda once again, but one of the reasons I selected it was because it's at 45 degrees, 19 minutes, and 42 seconds. There may possibly be just on the verge of a little bit of aperture block on the part of the roof tri that faces to the north and the east. But there we have it. We have a nice sharp edge-on view. Beautiful galaxy. Magnitude 13, 1.9 by 0.7 arc-minute spiral with a bar. Clearly that's apparent. And lowercase a, so fairly well mature. 53 million light years distant, puts it probably at only about 25,000 light years in diameter. RA 221230, declination 45, 1942. I'm going to push the magnification. It just starts to get ugly with the stars, doesn't it? But we are seeing more and more of its extension. And as I said, when you get to 100% e-zoom, you are using all the pixels to capture light and display it on the screen, which is why the galaxies get brighter and brighter as you magnify them more and more, but unfortunately the stars get uglier and uglier. In doing some research and using artificial intelligence, learned that NGC4 is probably the faintest galaxy at 15.4 visual magnitude. Maybe, because it was like 15.9, so I'm assuming it's around 15.4. Need to do some research. Was the faintest of the NGC catalog galaxies. However, here I have NGC 7239, a galaxy in Aquarius, magnitude 15.8, and it's quite large actually, 1.1 by 0.7 arc-minute. It's a lenticular spiral, 348 million light years distant, so about 100,000 light years in diameter. It's at RA 22 hours, 15.1 second, but the declination's a little far south at minus 5 degrees, 3 minutes, and 11 seconds. Let's go ahead and do some zoomage on this. There's clearly one galaxy right here. And it does have an interesting aspect ratio, but that looks way too bright for magnitude 15.8. Let's see if we're at, well, we are at 150x. And I couldn't tell you, but there seems to be a very faint flecking right here. And at 1.1 arc-minute, it could be this baby right there. I'll have to look up on adventuresindeepspace.com and get Steve's comments on it, because he's usually pretty accurate. Oh, we definitely have a beauty here. This is NGC 7241. Who doesn't love edge-ons? Galaxy and Pegasus. Magnitude 12.6. Pretty large for 12.6. 3.4 by 1.1 arc-minutes. Spiral with a bar. 2.5 times removed from lenticular, a BC. It's also got some peculiarities about it. It's got a little P on its description. 72 million light years distant, puts it at about 50,000 light years in diameter with its apparent size. Right ascension 22, 15, 49, declination plus 19 degrees, 13 minutes, 51 seconds. I think it warrants a little bit of magnification. Very saucer-like. It's got a nice spread here with a cap above it. There seems to be a bubble around the galaxy here in this location. Let's push the magnification up to 300, just get a quick look. That gives, don't look at the stars, just look at the galaxy itself. We're seeing some texture in it. Backing out again to get the best, backing out again to get the best aesthetic view, and then saying, well, not Carpe Noctem, but Hasta la Vista, NGC 7241. Here we have NGC 7248, a galaxy in Lacerta. Magnitude 12.4, 1.8 by 0.9, arc minutes, a perfect oblate, 2-to-1 ratio, lenticular spiral, 192 million light years distant, probably about 100,000 light years in diameter. A bit of zoomage on it gives us kind of an edge-on presentation, although the aspect ratio is 2-to-1. We get a sense of the luminosity of the core and then it's spreading out. Might even be a bit of a sense of a dark lane breaking the galaxy to the right here a little bit. Let's go on and see if we can find a few more before we finish up with this evening's Adventitious view. Another good view of a galaxy in Lacerta in the best part of the sky. Now you can understand why astronomers would want to put observatories on mountaintops. This is a very nice view, even at 70x. NGC 7250 is a galaxy in Lacerta, magnitude 12.6. Another oblate, 1.7 by 0.8 arc minutes. It's spiral with a disturbance in it. And can we get a sense of that? Obviously, this is probably a bright star forming region right here. You can see one off here. So yes, what they mean by a disturbance may be that the luminosity does not spread very evenly across the galaxy. The galaxy is 57 million light years distant, which puts it at probably about 30,000 light years in diameter. Right ascension 22, 18, 17 with a declination of plus 40 degrees, 33 minutes, 46 seconds. We're now about almost 18 minutes into this video. I have one other study that I want to explore in greater depth. Let's pause now. What we have just accomplished by being extremely still is a 60-second exposure of NGC 7331, that beautiful oblately presented galaxy in Pegasus, magnitude 9.5, 10.2 by 4.2 arc minutes. You can see it extending from all the way across to here to here. This is about 90 arc minutes across. So we are getting pretty much all the extension of NGC 7331. We just finished the second pass. That's great. We're not seeing comatose stars. Looks like we can zoom in just a little bit. We can go to 50%. All kinds of spiralicity visible in this galaxy. This is quite a nice view. Now I can play with the histogram a little bit to bring out a little bit more contrast. What a gorgeous galaxy NGC 7331 is. Spiral with a bar, lowercase c, so it's not particularly well developed. We're still seeing the supernova that went off in, I believe it was July 13th or 14th. We're at right ascension 22 hours, 37 minutes, 4 seconds with a declination of plus 34 degrees, 24 minutes, 57 seconds. We're seeing several other galaxies in the background. Oops, we just cannot find a matched triangle, so we're not allowed to overlay the next image on the screen. Perhaps even just my talking has created issues. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to step down the exposure time to 30 seconds, and maybe it will integrate that with the same image. So here we go. I'm going to pause. Here's our first stack at 30 seconds exposure time. Now I've done quite a bit of math and trying to figure out exactly what kind of views we're getting here. At 60 seconds, I think we're pretty much, I did some mathematics using some equations, and it came out to something like 104-inch telescopic view with the eyepiece. 30 seconds is half that, so you basically lose about 2/3. So actually, it's not 2/3. I have to figure it out mathematically. But it comes down to about a 65-inch eyepiece view. If we had 20, it would be a lot easier to figure if we had a 20-second view, a 15-second view, because then you know you've basically reduced by 1.5 magnitudes, which is half the aperture. So if we had a 20-second exposure time, we'd be operating at about a 52-inch scope at the eyepiece. This 30-second view is actually quite nice. I did not change the histogram settings. So I am going to leave off at this, and we're going to call it Carpe Noctem for the evening. And we've had some nice adventitious views of some beautiful galaxies. We actually got a stack here, so that's very nice. 30-second exposure times, at least 2 stacks, possibly more. And with that, I say Carpe Noctem.